Good morning, guys. Thank you, Chameli and the team, SAS and Seda team. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. It's almost like a year plus for the relationship. So, absolutely happy and honored to be here as part of the DevCon. Let's start. So, yeah, I think I was introduced. My name is Venki. I'm part of ZoomInfo India. We are around almost 500 professionals here, mostly in Chennai, around 300 people in Chennai. We're just opening our office in Bangalore in August. So we are around 50 people in Bangalore and spread across India. As you can imagine, like in any other GCC, we started pretty small, year and a half, 2 years back. Around 25 people. We bought a small startup chat company called Instant App. Then we grew from there, and we are now 500 people. We have R&D, we have go-to-market, we have CS, ASM. Obviously, we are a data company that we'll talk about, so we have a lot of data professionals, right? So this is the agenda. I'll explain a little bit into our products, what we do and things like that, so that we can set the context, and we'll move into a little bit on where we get this data, how the data is organized, and so on, right? And then we'll get a little more technical. How do we search in the data? How do we join the data? And what are the architectural patterns we use so that some of that we can carry forward? And obviously, last we will wind up with a small lessons learned. So, what is a ZoomInfo? As ZoomInfo was introduced at the end of you peel the onion, we're a data company, right? But we are a go-to-market intelligence provider. Our biggest customer bases are across these personalities or the personas that's starting from a CEO, CMO, right? What problem are we trying to solve? We have CEOs saying that, hey, where do I sell this data? Where is my TAM area, right? Which is the total addressable market. Do I sell in this Americas? Do I sell in EMEA? Where do I sell? Who are these customers? And my marketing and sales team is not aligned on tools, on the processes, on the data, right? When I do a marketing campaign, how much data of that is useful that's fed into the sales, and my AAMs and SDRs in the sales, how do they use it, right? So from a CEO down, there is a disparity among the data in the company or the processes that depend on this data. Obviously, the marketing team says, hey, I don't have enough leads. Even the leads I get, if I call them, they're not picking up. The numbers are wrong, the emails are wrong, the campaigns are difficult to set up, and the market is tough, right? So my conversion rate when I get from these leads, the MQLs are bad. When I work on this MQL, still my output is bad, right? So that's a marketing statement in a way. The sales says, hey, you feed in this data to me, but the data is not enough. The data is wrong, again, right? So you haven't spent enough time on the research. You haven't given me enough inputs on this customer. You gave me a lead, but you haven't specified what should I be talking to these sales guys that you are giving me a lead to, right? So, so obviously, I'm not able to convert them. When you get to the AAMs, SDR, same story, right? So some of the data is wrong, obviously, but also that you haven't prioritized. You're given like 500 leads or people to talk to. Who are the guys in these companies? Am I talking to the right guys? Are these the right companies? Is this the buying power, or are these the guys who are making the buying decisions in the company? And when I talk to them again, what do I talk to? The data that you gave me, for example, this company got a recent funding. That's wrong. So I look like an idiot when I talk to this company, right? So starting from the data accuracy, not having enough data, prioritization of the leads. So that's a AAM's SDR's problem, right? And as you go down into the customer success and operations, the customer success again talks. What are the issues we are talking about? Are you going to churn? So what are the usage of my tools on my software, right? So again, end to end, you see a disparity in the data, and that leads to confusion and chaos in the whole system. HR talent, we'll talk about a little bit more. We are a data company. We have the largest company in the personal data. So we also have an offering called talent, which is very similar to other products in the market that can be used for recruiting, right? So we'll talk about that in a minute. But the similar problem, right? The people that you gave me, the contacts are wrong, or the technologies they are worked on, or the companies they have worked on, when I reach out to them, either they are already employed because they got a new job, which is not updated in your system, again falls down to data accuracy, the real-time updation of the data, and not enough data. So how do we solve it? What do we bring to the table as a ZoomInfo company, right? So we have the largest available company personal data. When I say the company data, it boils down to the HQ information, the number of people that's employed, what technologies the companies work on, what scoops are there in this company, what are they funded, how many places do they have, are there new products they are working on, who are their partners, everything, right? Everything about a company that you can think of. And then you come to the personal data. Obviously, the basic things are your phone numbers and emails, but which companies you worked on, what are your interests in terms of technology, stuff like that, right? So as much information we can collect, both on the company and on the personal data. So the base thing is, how do we bring this B2B data and insights together, right? So, and these has to be real-time insights. When I talk to a customer, that has to be real-time. You just floated an RFP, and I want to be knowing that RFP floating immediately. If I reach to a customer after a week and so, hey, you floated an RFP last week, that's already too late, right? So how do I get this data real-time so that I can immediately reach out to the customer and say, hey, I want to talk to you because I just saw that or heard that you're floating an RFP and our product suits that, right? So how do we get this insights? We'll talk about the intents and the signals in a bit, but how do I get the signals and intents real-time so that I can react and convert that lead or a prospect into a customer, right? And then how do I engage with them? When I talk to them, we covered a little bit there. I want to connect across channels, right? When a marketing person talks, there has to be a coherent story between a marketing team and a sales team. Marketing team talks a particular thing based on the storyline that I formed for this customer, and then the sales team gets in, and they also have the same storyline. So that's how the data coherency comes into picture. That's where we are aligned on the sales and marketing, and then we engage with as a single platform to the customers. The last, obviously, you're done a marketing campaign, you got MQL, your sales team or your prospects, you are reached out, and then you convert them, right? Then how do you win that customer? When I say winning, a lot of things, right? You integrate to your CRM, you pull them, you give them right pricing and so on, and then you want to automate your customer outreach. When we say that, obviously, emails automation, calls automation, and when I get on a call, can I talk to the customer with a conversational AI in it, what we call as a chorus product, so that you get on a call with a prospect, and the call is recorded, and your AE, AMs, and SDRs gets automated insights of the call. What I mean by that is, our AI engine looks into the call, and where are the sales intents? Did the customer talk about a funding? Did the customer talk about an RFP? Did the customer talk about, I'm trying to get out of a vendor for this product, right? So what are the signals that our product can automatically bring up, surface, and then you create an automated workflow? And can you create automated meeting minutes, which are table stakes now, but conversational AI brings in the power for you to know things that you may have forgotten or missed out, right? And then how do you integrate to your workflow? Last but very, very important thing, simplify the tech stack. You may have multiple vendors for providing multiple data, right? For example, companies right now, they have multiple vendors to work on their customer data, company data. They have third-party providers. They have providers who provide intents, provide signals and things like that. So how do we make all that into one platform? Because ZoomInfo provides all that, right? So what is the output you get? The output is obvious. Increase in the win rates. When your SDRs and AAMs talk to the customers, you see a massive win rate increase with reduction in the deal cycle time, right? So you don't spend too much time. So actually the efficiency of your salespeople, your marketing people goes up a lot, right? And then if there are quota having sales reps, their quota increases by 91% across all the various SDRs, AAMs. And what we talked about, right? As an AEM SDRs, my time is precious. So don't push me to go to one particular tool for an intent. Don't ask me to go to a particular tool for getting customer data. Don't ask me to go to another tool to send an email. Don't ask me to go to another tool to make a call because I'm sitting in India or APAC and I'm calling a customer in US. Don't push me to another tool to make a call. Or don't push me to another tool to send the data to my CRM, right? So how do we bring that all so that you save that time across these workflows, right? So that's what we mean by simplifying your tech stack. It's easy to imagine that it's not great, but when you look at from a customer perspective, a minute or a second of every second of your AAMs and SDRs is so costly and so important, right? So how do we make efficient use of it? Just to tell you, this is one of the latest things. ZoomInfo has been named the leader among the marketing, and you will see some of the big names there. We are the leader in the marketing and sales data providers in B2B domain, and there's a Q1 data, as you can see. And these are, in a way, categorized or reviewed across 21 categories. Sorry about that. 21 categories, right? So these categories include what we talk about: the customer data, all the information about the various companies, the company data, the personal data, and then the depth of all this, right? The correctness, the coverage across geographies and things like that, and behavioral intent data. What do we mean by an intent? And maybe it's the right time to talk about the signals and intents, right? An intention to buy. We spoke about companies having funding. We spoke about companies floating an RFP, right? So, which means they are they are closing a quarter where they are saying that, hey, I may have enough extra money to buy a new tool. Or I may be going public. There's a scoop around that. Or, very simple, I got a new CMO or a CRO, which is a great intent for me to reach out to that particular company and say, hey, you got a new CRO, which means things are going to change, the tools are going to change, the organization is going to change. Is this the right time to reach out to this prospect? Or, I've been working as an SDR AEM with a particular CRO, and that CRO moved to another company, right? And so I want to reach out to them and say, hey, we have been working in your XYZ, now you moved to another company. Would you be interested in giving or projecting ZoomInfo in your new company, right? Which obviously 99.9% it works, right? So these are the intents and signals. So how do we, in a way, be real-time about it? And then obviously deduplication, not having enough duplicates, and the data matching and enrichment, right? So customers want to bring their first-party data and then say that, hey, I want to enrich my data in my CRM because you have an excellent data. So I want to enrich my data so that I'm not having duplicate data in my CRMs, or I want to use my data to enrich your data. So it's the handshake, how it happens, how the data matching and things happen, right? So the last but not the least, innovation parameter, right? As anybody else in the industry, how do we continuously innovate? We'll talk about that in a minute. We just released our GenAI enable, what we call as a co-pilot. So these are some of the 6 or 7 parameters out of the 21 parameters that we have been rated against. Let's talk about a little bit going into the data, in a way, the playground itself, right? So what are we talking about? We spoke about a lot about data. How much are we talking about, right? So right now, we have 270 million plus contact profiles. We have 140 million email addresses. Most important amongst these are the 9 million plus C-level profiles, because these are the CROs, CMOs, VP of sales that people want to reach out. And major of these are the buying committee or the buying decision makers, or what we call as an ICPs, right? The ideal customer profiles that you want to reach out to. And then 100 million company profiles, the 30K plus technologies, which is very important for a B2B SaaS provider. Are they working in Java? Are they working in a mainframe? Whatever, right? So how do we keep the latest tech stack? And this changes every minute. As a company, you adopt new technologies, new databases. So how do we keep this updated so that when the customers or the AAMs, the customer reps or the AAMs talk, they are talking in real time. So these are some of the things that we spoke about. How do we get this data, right? There are multiple ways, as you can imagine. There's a multiple sources of data that we provide. The basic ones are obviously we have our own team that creates bots and others that goes around and scraps the web and gets us the data. We buy data from a lot of data providers who are the data partners and give us. We also have contributory network. Obviously, our customers make a big part of it, but people like you guys who have, in a way, signed on to ZoomInfo, and you provide access to your emails, not the data of your email, but at least the visiting card or the information that people, when they send you an email, we get the contact info of that person and we update our database, right? So all legal, so this is multiple sources that we have. Is this enough? Absolutely not, right? So because some of this data is not correct, not real time, and there is a lot of duplication. So we have our own 400 plus professionals who are data researchers, data analysts, who are in a way obviously manually sourcing some of these scoops and data, but also in a way validating and in a way correcting this data, right? So those are the things that in a way keeps the data safe and real time. Extending that, these are the major, on the left side you see the major 4 products that we spoke about, right? The marketing, which is the marketing offering of us, which is for your marketing professionals to do marketing campaigns, reach out to your customers, put ads and things like that so that you can create a good lead. The whole about the lead generation is helped by that. Once you have the leads, obviously we have integration to your CRMs, but then you give to the sales professionals, right? The sales guys reach to the right prospects at the right time, talk the right language, set up emails, set up phone calls, set up workflows, everything, right? Then one of the new kid in the block, year and a half, is our talent offering, right? So obviously as a company you bought this, but you want to also recruit the right people. Since we have the best data in the world, you can use it as a talent offering to reach out to the prospects, candidates, and hire them, right? So the last but not the least, we also have the operations data that gives a lot of workflows and other areas to reach out to the customers and set up the end-to-end operations. We have the data. We don't sell alone the wrappers, the left side are the wrappers, if you will, the SaaS microservices, wrappers that are on the data, right? But there are customers, again, a new kid in the block, data as a service. We can talk a lot, a separate session on that, but data as a service has grown leaps and bounds in the last year and a half, where customers are saying, give us the data, right? Give us a dump of the data as a CSV or a database dump or whatever, but we will do our own analysis. We will push it to our data lake, and we will do AML on that. So we will use your wrappers, the sales or a marketing and so on, but give us the data itself, right? So that's where you see a growing appetite in terms of companies wanting this company data, the contact data by themselves so that they can use it. So we provide in multiple ways, Snowflake dumps, Databricks, we can push it to your cloud, everything possible under the sun, right? So that's where, as you can see, the data foundation that we lay is very important. I'm repeating that so that you can understand when we get to the technical details of how do we do the search, you can understand the importance of it, right? And once you have these data foundation very well set up, setting up the workflows, the intents, your Gen AI, everything works seamlessly. Collecting the data is not just enough, right? So you get data everywhere, and that's just the bottom of the iceberg, right? So as you can see here, we get very simple, right? If you just go into internet and look for news and others, 5K plus scoops every day. And there are like queries that's come in, there are emails that are coming in, right? Everything, there's so much influx of data. Many of them are duplicates, many of them are not real, many of them are you may not be able to trust, but you still, in a way, consume that data, right? So that's what differentiates ZoomInfo from many other vendors in the market. We process 1.5 billion data points every day, right? Let's take a pause on that. It's a massive amount of data through all the sources we talked about, manual, partners, the social network or the partners who are signed up, our own researchers, feeding in this data continuously, and it comes in like a bulk, right? So it keeps coming. We can't push all this data into our OS or to our customers as a DAS, right? Because many of this data is not useful. And that's what, again, differentiates us. We process the data, we validated data, we have multiple ways. For example, we have tools that makes the emails, checks the emails, check the phone calls, the phone numbers are correct, manual unautomated processes to ensure that the data we have, are the scoops right? Is this only one website that spoke about the particular funding for a company? Or is this person really joined as a VP of sales in another company, right? So we make sure there is a lot of concentration that's put in, right? Just to let you know a number, we spend around $250 million yearly, ZoomInfo spends, to correct this data. Obviously, we collect a lot of data, but compared to other vendors, a massive amount of our R&D investment goes into our data pipelines, data correction, manual researches, so that we ensure what you see as the tip of the iceberg is maybe a 25%, 30% of the data that's coming, right? So that's what we are saying, 50 million plus intent signals, 100 million plus company profiles, 260 million professional profiles, but that's maybe 20-25% of data that really comes in, right? And these are validated data. Are we pristine? Absolutely not, right? So because I'm sure that if you look at this 260 million, maybe again 5%, 7% of that is not real, right? Again, there are customers who tell us, hey, I call this number, the number is not right. So we are not at there, but 92% or 88 to 92% correctness or efficiency is amazing in the market when other vendors are at 60, 70%, right? So introducing our GenAI, we introduce our latest GenAI powered software or offering that we call as a Copilot. What it provides us, in a way, we get all these intents and signals. So we talk about the intents, right? Where do we get these intents from? We get it from a lot of companies who provide these intents, like the G2s and others. We look and, in a way, get to the earnings call, the company websites, we scrape them, we get the customers visiting their customers or a prospect visiting the customer websites. So we have an offering called websites that you integrate to your website, and it looks at who are the visitors to your website and which pages do they visit, where are they coming, which domains are they coming from, right? So that when you reach out to them, you can talk, hey, I saw that your sales guy or a couple of your sales guys visited our website, and this is what particular product they were looking at, right? So are you interested in that, right? So that's a real-time conversation or a signal that you want to capture and talk when you are in a conversation with your prospect, right? So you get these multiple things, and the buying signals, the partner signals, all that comes, but again, massive data is coming in. How do you prioritize? How do you, in a way, know that this is real time? And then how do you make sure there is a coherent story, right? That's where the AI comes into picture, where you can stitch this whole story together. So let's watch how it's done in Copilot. As you can see here, right, you are going to see continuous feeds of information as an AEM SDR. You come in as a morning, like a feed, you're going to say, these are your prospects. You have set up your, what we call as a target customer base. I'm looking at this particular area, like, I don't know, US, Northeast US, Northern US. These are the type of companies they want to sell to. So once the AEAMs come in the morning, like engineers look at Jira, the Gen Z guys look at Facebook feeds, whatever, right? Similar. You get here, you are going to see your target companies. And the signals what's happening. They have floated an RFP. There is a new CTO change. And then you're going to say, hey, can I reach out to them immediately there, right? So as you can see here, is this a great fit? Is this my target account? Is this a right time to reach out? Are the signals enough? Are they vague enough so that I can reach out to them immediately? How do you reach out? You don't need to do much. You can automate it, but you can go to the right side. You can send an email, and the email is obviously written automatically by you. You just set up the products you sell, the profile of the products, and then the tone of the language, and whatever you want to add more information, the email is automatically written for you. The phone calls are automatically set up for you. The integration into CRMs are set up for you. So that's what the GenAI power comes in, right? So lot of things that manually your AEMs, SDRs were doing is replaced by the GenAI power. And all that is fed by our data, right? So again, talking about this data is so important so that we can get to the next part of the session. But what does Copilot provide, right? What does it, we have released this a couple of weeks back, but we have been piloting, betaing it with beta customers for almost 2.5 months. We are seeing amazing increase in the win rates. The reason is simple. When you talk to the customer, you are credible. You're not bullshitting with them. You're talking about credible data that I saw that news and this is what you're going to do. So we have an offering that fits in, right? So, and the deal velocity, which in an enterprise world takes 8 months to 12 months, or in the SMB and mid-market, maybe a weeks to months, the whole deal time, end-to-end deal time comes down, right? Because again, the relationships get better, the trust gets faster built, and the overall revenue growth, what we are seeing in our beta customers is almost 32% increase. Let's get into the technical details. How do we spoke a lot about the search, the data. So how do we do this? Where do we store? How do we pull this? Let's talk about that, right? Our real-time data search is provided by Solar. We have dozens of sources of data that's coming in, right? So, and the customers can filter this data based on their technologies, the area that they want to concentrate, the particular products they want to sell, or particular C-levels they want to reach out. So the filters that the customers can set is amazing, right? Maybe 8 to 12 various parameters, and each of these are stored in a different table. So we'll talk about that, but you want a real-time join and real-time data provided to the customers. We'll talk about that, how it's done, right? Again, the insights are stored in different database. So how do you, when the customer searches, how do you give them an exact targeted list of customers and contacts to the search people, right? So the second use case, which is a little tricky, is what we call as the customer's operational data, right? What I mean by that is you can create your custom filters. You can create what we call as tags, right? Because there are 100 AAMs in your company, and I have created my own target list, and I want to share across my AAMs, right? So that's a very tenant-based data. For that particular customer, in that AAM world, they are creating a particular tag. You can say tag A companies that I want to reach out in this week. So that's a first week tag, right? So you can create custom tags, you can create custom workflows, you can keep it to yourself, you can share with your whole company. So it's a very tenant-based data that's not stored in Solar. So, but when a particular AAM or SDR or a VP of sales want to research or query, they are going to query across your operational data, which is what we spoke about. And the operational data also involves your CRM, right? So is this data in my CRM? Have I already been selling to this company? Do I have contacts in my CRM? So, or do I have deal sizes and deal history or a conversational history in my CRM? So how do you pull all this operational data of a particular customer or a tenant and in a way merge with what we are non-tenant based data? That's our best customer contact and company info. Then how do you provide this together, right? So the challenge becomes a little bit tougher, not only your own data, but you need to combine with the customer, not only the customer CRM data, but also what they are doing, the little bit of their history and their action data. What's the scale we are talking about? We covered a little bit, right? We are talking about of 100 million contacts, hundreds of millions of data of the companies, tens of terabytes of data across company contacts and the operational data. We query like almost 10 million queries per day. Our latency 100 millisecond of P95 is around 300 milliseconds. So how do we get to these requirements and manage this amount of data? A screenshot of our sales to give you an idea, right? You're searching for a particular, you're going to search for a particular set of filters. As you can see here, what's my industry setup and stuff like that. You get a list of contacts. You can tag these contacts. You can export these contacts. When you tag, for example, you can see on the left-hand side, there is a tag that's created, and this tag can be shared with their own AAMs or SDRs, so that that's a tenant-based data, or you can create your own buying committee, you can create your own targets and things like that. So you can see the right side, little bit of a non-tenant-based generic data for company contacts based on the filters that's set up. On the left side, little bit on the bottom side, below the filters are your tags and workflows. That's very operational data. So how do you work across these and give the real-time info to the customers is what we will see in a minute. So let's get to the major search components. As there are contacts, as we spoke about, that's a basic thing. And we have what we started with as a small company, maybe a decade back. We have our contacts and a company separately, right? So if a customer asks for a contacts data, we'll just pull it from the contacts DB and give it to them. If they ask for a company data, we pull it and give it to them. And we didn't have a inbuilt join. We would do it offline. Not very well done, but that's how we started, right? If the customers are asking for, hey, what about this particular company and who is working there? So we used to do outside work. We had jobs, batch jobs that would do that and give it to them, right? So that was old data or old paradigm. So we have the contacts data. We brought in the company's data into Solar, and these are all various Solar data sets. We have our intense technology scoops engagements that we spoke about. the scoops technology companies' intents and contacts. Intents are what we spoke about. Intention to buy. Are there signals in the world about my RFPs, my funding, or a new technology that I'm adopting? I'm looking for a new area to grow, or I just open an office in Melbourne, right? So it's very important to know that the customers in Melbourne can reach out to this particular prospect and start selling, right? So things like that. These are generic non-tenant-based data, right? Not singular tenant-based data. The engagements is what we spoke about, creating the particular filters, storing that filters, creating tags, things like that. When you engage, when I make a call to the customer, what did the call happen? What are the readings from the call? What are the recordings of the call? Did I make an email to the customers? What is the reply? Things like that, or engagement data, that's tenant-based data, is stored in Solar. The customer DB we spoke about, the CRM data, the customer's information that's stored in the customer, from the customer side, what's the interaction they are having. That's part of the customer operational DB. And that's not in Solar, right? We spoke about the data sources, multiple data sources, manual, bots that's crawling the web and giving us the data. All this data comes in. We have multiple data pipelines that feeds the data in, feeds into Kafka, as many of us do, right? And Kafka feed is sent back to the Solar, and the data gets updated, right? And it's like almost 24/7. Some of the pipelines may run every 2 hours, things like that, but that's how we update the data. Operational DB, we have a separate API for the customers to access what they have done, or they want to enrich the data, they want to send some particular information or get some particular information. We have a separate API for the operational DB, right? The CRM integration, the enrichment APIs that we spoke about. We also have our own search APIs. That's what the wrapper of the sales and the marketing offering that we spoke about. They call the search APIs, but our customers also can, based on APS queues. So we have GPRC provided, then we convert them into Solar queries, and they get back to the Solar data sets and get the data. Let's look at a couple of examples how this is done. For example, a very minimal query, right? A customer is asking for companies with greater than 100 million revenue, and then have intent of doing this, right? XYZ. So very simple query. It goes into it gets into the companies, the API gets into the companies, the query starts with the company company's DB pulls the data from the intent based on the IDs, and then it merges in the company's data set and provides back to the search API that was called, right? The second is little bit complex. I want to have the contacts with the title, right? VP of sales or CTO or CRO, and who work in companies that use a particular technology. Here it's GCP, right? So what we do, we get to the first, hit the contacts database, the query, it's a contact database. The contact database calls into the technology, pulls the data back, joins it, and then gives back to the search APIs. Again, little simpler. The third one gets complex, right? Go to my customer's data that's stored in the operational DB, check for the contacts that's in my CRM of the customer, and also look at, have I engaged with them in the last month? A time frame of the last month, have I engaged with them, I worked with them, and they have an intent XYZ, right? A little bit complex. So where do we start? We start with the contacts, because that's what you're asking for. But the first query is outside the Solar, gets to the operational DB, and then we'll get back to that in a minute, then gets the data back on the contacts in my CRM that matches my own query list, then gets back in a way, enriches that with the engagements. Did I engage with them? Gets a filter done. These are the companies that I engage with, so that the list comes down a little bit. And then I check again with the intents database, because that's why I told XYZ, goes to the intent database, gets the filter done on the intent database, pulls that data, and joins with the contacts, and then provides it back to the search API. Data ingestion we'll talk about for a minute, and then go back. The data pipelines, we spoke about multiple data pipelines, manual. We have bulk data ingestion from multiple data providers. We provide to Kafka that we spoke about. How do we, in a way, architecture our Solar databases across Solar leaders, which is write intensive, right, with a real-time indexing. And then we have the Solar replicas, which is a normal model in Solar, which is a most of a read intensive, and we replicate it to the replicas, and we then pull this replicas pull every n hours. Every couple of hours, it's in a way replicated to this Solar replicas, and that's how we reduce the time, obviously improve the performance. And the search APIs don't hit the Solar leads where the right instance data is going in, but we hit the replicas to get the data out. So what's a join flow looks like? We create our own queries. We create custom queries, and we can write, and we have written the plugins in the Solar. And when the custom query comes in, we invoke the plugins, and those are the plugins that you saw that go into the multiple data sets and pull the data and merge it or join it. So the data set sitting there, the customer operation DB that we spoke about, is not in Solar, right? When there is a need of, we work only on IDs. We stream the join IDs to the customer database. And this is a right now in getting improved model. We speak about that in a minute. We go to the customer operational DB, which is normally a Snowflake on our side. We go to the Snowflake, we pull in the stream join IDs, our plugin looks at it, matches it, and then go to the data sets, which is on Solar, and then merges it or joins it so that you can be providing the data, right? These are the CRM data. These are the customer info in the operational DB, and this matches with your data set. Then I pull in the data from your technology stack data set or your intent data set, join it, and then provide to the customers. So how does the join processing work? As we spoke about, the data comes from the operational DBs, right? The streaming IDs look up, the IDs come in. What we do in Solar, the IDs are set as segments in various shards, and we go there, we look for the IDs, and which doc IDs do these match to? Obviously, all doc IDs are not stored in one particular segment, so that's not an ideal way. We'll talk about that in a minute, how to improve it, but that it goes to the segments. It looks for multiple segments. It goes to the custom query, goes to the multiple segments in Solar, finds all the join IDs that maps to the doc IDs in that, pulls the doc IDs, create a doc set, right? And looks up the results and then creates a doc set, right? And doc set is what finally gets into Lucene. And then the query is done. You have a pristine query that's done along with the doc set. The doc set is executed by, the query with the doc set is executed by Lucene, and obviously you get the data back. How do we improve this performance? It's not ideal, but obviously we started seeing that, okay, we have to do a L1, L2, L3 type of a cache. We also created in a way, a doc ID cache so that the performance can be improved a lot. How do we scale this, right? And we spoke about some of the part of the, in a way, the write intensive to the read intensive operation. We talk about the L1, L2, L3 cache. We started with in-memory, then we went to distributed. Then obviously we told this is not enough, the performance is not enough. So we created per searcher doc ID cache so that, again, we can do this better and faster. So the whole distributor list or the queries that come in from the from multiple sources of the operational DBs, we in a way the doc IDs that come in from the operational DBs are cached, and the results that come in from the doc set is also cached, so that we can create a better performance. This is not enough. The major change that we did quite recently is when the data comes in. There's a recent integration with the Snowflake and others. When the data comes in, right, the data that's stored in Solar, that's the left side, it's across shards. So when the data comes from the Snowflake, beware doing at multiple shards, where is this data particularly stored, and then we pull the data in, and it's not efficient, right? So the doc ID mapping or the ID mapping to the customer database, we were doing on our side in the Solar, and that was creating the slowdown. So obviously the better idea that we came about is, let's not pull the data from Snowflake or any of the operational DBs and then do the matching on our side or the join on our side. Let's push that logic. What is the particular data set that we are looking to the customer DB itself, so that you don't run that on your side to look for the shards, but you run it on the operational DB and then pull the necessary data back to your shards, so that you are looking at the right shard when the query comes in itself, right? So that was a major improvement that we did. I'm running for time, so I'm going to be a little hurrying on the last slide. We spoke about how do we improve the whole search. Obviously, caching helps. Solar also works with, like many other database, you can warm, in a way, do some custom queries or sample queries to warm the database. You need to preload the cache wherever possible so that you can improve the response time. Optimizing on the data transfer is important, as we spoke about. Where all do you cache? What all do you cache? How do we decide that? And where all you no need to run the queries or the matching on your side, but can you run on the database that you are getting it from? Can that improve the performance, right? One of the most important learnings we got, as you can imagine, I spoke a lot about real-time data, is really that every data needs to be real time. What I mean by that is, do they need to be strongly consistent, right? When you speak about that, your database design pattern and what you decide as a data transfer changes, right? What we learned is not every data needs to be strongly consistent. They can be eventually consistent. What I mean by that is, yes, some of the signals and intents need to be real-time consistent, some of the CRM data, mainly the operational data, what the customer builds on, right? You created a tag, you created a workflow. Those need to be real-time consistent because you want to share that, or you created an ICP, you created a buyer profile, you created a target account. These need to be real-time consistent. You need to send it to your other partners in your company, so they need to be real-time. Some of the other data, the technologies and some of the other data may not change every minute, every second, or every hour, right? So how do you decide what needs to be strongly consistent, what needs to be eventually consistent? How do you manage that? That helps a lot. We are not at there, right, as I spoke about, but we are getting that learnings in a way, trying to match where you need design patterns changing so that you can manage cost versus performance, cost versus real-time or a data integrity. And as many of the database, Solar has its limitations. So how many data sets can you join? So where do you use cache? Where do you not use cache? And where do you use other databases? For example, we are not using Solar for some of the GenAI applications. Obviously, we are going to BigQuery and other things. How do you also combine with the vector databases that we are in a way integrating into our data platform? So how do you balance the multiple database decisions based on what you have? And as we spoke about, where do you don't join in your database, but where do you join outside your database? And we are also trying to see, can you remove the logic of the join beyond the database, and can we create a wrapper above Solar and not running some of these joins in Solar itself? Those are the things being worked on, as we learned, that can improve our performance. So I think I went a little bit over time, but that's it. Thank you, guys. Open for questions.
Thank you so much, Venki. Probably we'll take a minute if there are any Q&A. We'll have a Q&A, and if there are any questions, please feel free to ask. We'll send it the mic from there. I know it's the first session, so everybody is a bit low on energy. but yeah, if there is anything.
I think you should, I mean, it's a suggestion, not a question, but you should have a separate India pricing because you're targeting India now. ZoomInfo, the US pricing is a little exorbitant. What do you think on that?
Yeah, it's about whether you want to ride a Mercedes or a Maruti, right? So that's what my CEO says, not Maruti, but obviously he's just another example. But I think, see, we have the best-in-class data, and a lot of these, as I just spoke about a $250 million investment just in cleansing, just in the data researchers and the tools, right? So it's an investment against what the value of the product you get. And I haven't even touched upon the GenAI. Maybe we'll do it in the SaaSCon a little bit. How much money that goes into the pipelines, the infrastructure, and other things that's coming with the Copilot and the GenAI, right? So it's about the value that you get for the money. I think that's where it is, right? So as I spoke, we are at 92% efficiency when compared to other vendors, so that your AEMs are not spending time calling a wrong number or sending an email to a wrong ID and stuff like that, right? So absolutely, that's where the pricing is in a way managed. But to your point, yes, we are working trying to see how we can have a PLG type of product-led motion where you can buy data as a lesser cost with your credit card. So we are in works to see like how we can get some different models for India. But yeah, in the works. Thank you.